Without any further ado, our first speaker is Sam Anderson. Sam was born and raised in Half Moon Bay and still lives there with his two sons. He's worked for Gachina Landscape for 6 years as an account manager, primarily working with some of those low-income people in Menlo Park in Palo Alto. And prior to that, he actually served in the Peace Corps, which is, of course, a noble calling. And so we're very pleased to have him. Let's give him a brief round of applause. And come on up, Sam.
Hello and good morning, everyone. I'm really excited and proud to be speaking in front of you all today. A lot of peers and folks in the industry that we share a lot of the same stories, success stories, and somewhat hard learning cases. So again, proud to be presenting a very successful water management case to all of you involving a property that Gachina manages in Palo Alto that some of you may know, called Oak Creek Apartments along Sand Hill Road. Before I get started with the presentation, I'd like to note that the success of this story is due in large part to the great communication, collaboration, partnership, proper budgeting, and strategic planning done on the part of Gachina, our water management department, design department, maintenance division, the upper management at Oak Creek, Suzanne Landers, Jackie Tuato, their management team, the folks at Hydro Point, the makers of WeatherTrack, smart irrigation controllers, and of course the Santa Clara Valley Water District, Ashley Carter and her team. Whereas the rebate program, that's really the foundation of this story, allowed for the success to take place. And without that, none of this would have gotten off the ground. So in 2014, our water manager, Chad Sutton, who a lot of you know, had just come on board with Gachina. And this was one of his first projects that he worked on. And it started just as a controller conversion, a WeatherTrack smart irrigation controller conversion. But as the rebates that the water district provided and the incentives became greater and became more enticing, the project and the ideas evolved to something that became really special and incorporated the cash for grass, turf conversions, as well as the smart controller conversions. And with a lot of on-site consultation, design work done by our enhancement team, a huge leap of faith by Oak Creek, and a lot of partnership around the entities that I just outlined. We were able to maximize the allowable funds by the district at $50,000, and we converted over 20,000 square feet of somewhat poorly declining turf or underperforming turf, along with the controller conversions. One thing before I move on, I'd like to note that the communication and emphasize the communication between us, our client, Oak Creek, and the water district was paramount in the evolution of this project, because if you've ever been involved in landscape design, it's a very slow, arduous process that involves a lot of ideas, a lot of revisions, renderings, on-site consultation. It's not a quick and easy process. Because we were dealing with multiple different areas, multiple different exposures and existing conditions. And we were waitlisted towards the end of 2015. The funds were depleted when our designs were still evolving, and we had to wait until the funds were replenished in 2016. But Oak Creek didn't get discouraged. We didn't get discouraged. We stayed positive. And once the funds were replenished in 2016, we hit the ground running. The hardware was purchased, and the turf conversions were initiated simultaneously. And the end result is something that I'm really proud to present to you all. So as seen here, this is one of our turf conversion areas. I'd like to quickly explain how Gachina, using a lot of BayFriendly best practices, executes their turf conversions. A lot of you know this, where we take an underperforming or declining area of turf and we smother the existing grass. We try to eliminate any waste to the landfill as much as possible, keeping everything on site as much as possible. We cover it with cardboard and a layer of organic compost. We convert the existing overhead spray irrigation to a drip irrigation system, primarily Netafim inline drip. We install pressure reducers and filters at the valves, replace the valves, install water-wise planting that other speakers have already touched on, California native perennial flowering shrubs, ground covers, native grasses, and finish the project with either boulders, recycled pro-chip mulch, in certain areas a dry creek bed effect with cobblestone. And the end result is something we've gotten nothing but positive feedback from. I walk the property with Suzanne every week, and constantly residents are coming back to us and telling us how we've given the residents at Oak Creek a better standard of living. And that's at really the heart of what we were doing here. It wasn't just water management or water savings. It was to provide the residents at Oak Creek a better standard of living, something they can be proud to come home to. And if you see some of these before and after pictures, this is something that we see in the commercial landscape industry all too often, whereas in this case, a liquid amber tree, for some reason, a once desirable landscape tree, for whatever reason, was planted in turf areas. I don't know why. It's created the inheriting company nothing but problems. And what it does is create a scenario where neither the trees nor the turf are allowed to really reach full potential or really thrive. As we irrigate shallow turf soil profiles, we're not allowing the trees to really penetrate deep into the underground water table. Therefore, the turf is not successful. It's very patchy. It looks horrible underneath the drip line of the tree, and the tree is never allowed to truly thrive. So in this case, this is in front of a very high profile area of the property, and the residents had to come home to dead grass every day, and this was something that we weren't happy with, the residents weren't happy with. We weren't delivering on the quality expectations that they were expecting of us. And no matter what we did, aeration, reseeding, resodding, nothing was working. So this was an obvious area that we had to convert. And again, the end result is proper hydrozoning. We were able to divide valves, irrigate like water use plants. The trees got what they needed. The companion plants underneath got what they needed. And as we see this, specifically this project or this area evolve, it's really something special. And I'd really like to drive home that again, the impetus is water conservation. That's why we're all here. But what we do as a company is provide the folks that live and work at the places we maintain something that they can really enjoy when they come home or when they take a stroll, something that's long-lasting, a sleek, modern, upgraded landscape, and something that we're going to pass on from decades to come, and not just continue the old theme of trying to rehabilitate underperforming turf. The other piece to this was the controller conversion. We converted 28 existing failing irrigation controllers, sometimes on their way out, or in certain cases they had already failed. As you can see in this picture, this was one of them. If you're familiar with this old Iritrol MC, it's vintage, and digital vintage. And so in certain cases, we were able to consolidate controllers for easy management and cost savings to Oak Creek. I'd really like to highlight the work done by our water manager, Chad Sutton, in this slide. If you can see the bottom portion or the last bullet point, 162 valves on one 4-inch point of connection with 25 controllers. We consolidated in one instance 3 to 1 controller, so 25 controllers on one point of connection. If you've ever had any experience with programming irrigation controllers, this is a daunting task. Try to envision Chad with his spreadsheets and his slide rule and his hydraulic tables in his office, trying to crunch numbers to figure out how to stagger water windows and start times, with a tight water window at a multi-use residential complex is not easy. And he accomplished it. And the end result is something beautiful. It's really something special. It wasn't an easy task that he was assigned to, so that he put a lot of painstaking effort to making this program work. The other piece to this was the technology that WeatherTrack allows us is it gives us alerts when there's actual field deficiencies in ground. And one of the things that we were then getting alerts once the controllers were installed is a lot of these alerts were telling us the system needs to be upgraded as well. This was another piece that we had to communicate with Oak Creek where the deficiencies were. A lot of old valves, if you can see, this is an old valve with a corroding solenoid that was creating an overcurrent in one of the controllers, and it was saying, stop, we cannot run this valve or you're gonna overload our circuitry. And it was essentially causing harm to the existing controllers and causing them to fail. And WeatherTrack would not allow these controllers to be fired on. So we had to explain that, troubleshoot it, explain it to the management at Oak Creek, and they had to continue their investment. They had to continue their investment in upgrading the system. We also removed a lot of battery-operated controllers and ADA zones. In the next slide, I'd really like to highlight the work done by another expert on our water management team, Alfonso Torres, who some of you may know. If you don't, look for the guy with the dirtiest boots in the room. He really went above and beyond when he was the driver of the controller conversion, but also took the next step, which we don't see often enough in this industry, in finding, troubleshooting, existing declining conditions or failing conditions, using all the resources and tools he had at his disposal and his expertise, ground fault locators, toners, wire tracers, to identify problem areas and not only communicate them back to me and Oak Creek, but also fix them. And so we delivered not only a new upgraded sleek irrigation control system, but also in-field upgrades along with it. This piece and this story, as I explain the success of it, is only possible through the last piece, which they've identified in previous speakers, how this project is then carried on to the maintenance program. And that's where I fit in with my on-site maintenance crew. The gentleman on the right, Luis Perez, is a really great up-and-coming crew leader that's embraced the technology. He uses the technology to his benefit, the WeatherTrack app, how it's helping benefit him to free up his time to actually execute his maintenance tasks and continue the evolution of the new landscape that we've installed. So it's only possible if you're considering doing these upgrades, consider your management team and your maintenance division, because they need to continue their education, their evolution as maintenance professionals, and know how to not only work with the controllers, but also maintain these new sleek modern landscapes. That's critical in the success that we've enjoyed. After the culmination of all these things, we were confident in submitting Oak Creek for the NALP, National Association of Landscape Professionals, in an award for the multi-use residential category in maintenance. And we were honored with the award last year. And this is something, if you know John Gachina, you know how much pride he took in the awards that we've earned on our maintenance accounts. Not because they gave him personal accolades or they were a feather in his cap, but because it was his chance to recognize the actual crew members that execute the high quality that we and our customers expect in the field. This is something that he really took pride in passing that congratulations down to the hardworking men and women that help make Gachina what it is. With all that said, and with as much congratulations we were giving each other and all the organizations involved, at the end of it, we're running a business. and the folks at Oak Creek took a huge leap of faith to invest serious capital into this. And in 2014, when Chad was going through the sale of the controllers, we were promising or expecting a 3 to 5 year return on investment. And as we saw the landscape evolve, we were confident that we could speed that process up. So as we took a look at raw water meter data, we were surprised by what we were seeing. And partnering with HydroPoint, we began a measurement and verification case study on how much water savings we were actually enjoying through the first 18 months of since the execution of these projects. And the end result is this: if you reference the bolded out bullet points here, as we put all the raw data into actual analytics, we saw a water savings of 5 million gallons of water in 18 months, or 16% on total baseline, and a cost savings of $51,000. That's a big deal. It's something we're really proud of. So we sped that up from something that was going to take us 3 to 5 years to pretty much 2 years. And before I answer questions, that's something we're really proud of. But in thinking about this story and how it's evolved, and thinking about John Gachina, this is something he would have really been proud of, because his dedication to appropriate water management, sustainable landscape, bay-friendly practices, this would bring a smile to his face. And this is something we're all very proud of, because again, it wasn't water costs or water savings at all costs and bottom line expectations. It was, let's do this the right way by the folks at Oak Creek and deliver a beautiful, healthy, long-lasting landscape that they can enjoy into the future. And I believe we accomplished that. Thank you.